It's the Real News Network. I'm Sharmini Pires coming to you from Baltimore. According to the BBC, 149 of the 150 councils have declared their results in the UK local elections that were held on May 3rd. Results indicate that Labour has 73 councils. They lost one, and yet they have 2,308 seats where they gained 77. Now, the Conservatives, that is Theresa May's party, has 46 councils. They lost 2, and yet they have 1,230 seats, and they actually lost 93 seats in this election. Now, the Liberal Dems has 9 councils. They gained 4 councils, and they have 536 seats, and they gained 77 seats. And the Green Party has 39 seats. They gained 8 councils. And UKIP, they have 3 councils. They actually lost 57 councils. Now, why are these local elections even significant? Let's find out. On to talk about the results and their significance is Jon Lansman. Jon is a British Labour Party activist. He is the founder of the movement Momentum, the organization within the Labour Party that supported Jeremy Corbyn, which is very similar to our revolution within the Democratic Party here in the US. He was active on the left side of the Labour Party since the 1980s, and he's been good enough to join us today after staying up most of the night last night. Thanks for joining us, Jon.
Pleasure.
All right, Jon, tell us about why these local elections are even significant. Why is it important for us to know about them? And what does it indicate?
What we've got here is a picture which shows that, Jeremy, we've achieved, for example, in London, in terms of the number of Labour councillors elected, the best result we've had since 1971 with Jeremy as leader. And so that is a significant indicator that Jeremy is a Labour Party leader that can win with a bold, radical, transformative programme for government.
Now, Jon, you've been a critical player in the formation of the movement called Momentum, and you're really a grassroots organizer in that sense, because it is Momentum that put Jeremy Corbyn in the position he is now, which is a position as leader of the Labour Party that is highly tested by the establishment of the Labour Party, as we have known for decades. Yet, because of Momentum, he brings a fresh look at the issues that the country is facing. There's a great deal of young people that have joined the party as a result of Momentum. There is a drive behind Corbyn, similar to that of Bernie Sanders here. Give us a sense of how the base is feeling at this moment as a result of these elections.
Well, I think they came out in great numbers to campaign. The party has trebled in size since the election of Jeremy Corbyn. So we are now the biggest political party in Western Europe, and that is very significant. And for us, that we've got 600,000 members. And those people can have millions of conversations with voters, in their communities, over the garden fence, with people in their workplace. And so they are a real instrument for winning, for converting people, for persuading people. And, they are very enthusiastic about politics. And in most of the years I've knocked on doors, as we do in Britain, in the run-up to every election, it's not the most, we're normally there just simply gathering data on which way people intend to vote, so that come election day, we knock on their door to get them to come out and vote. That's how we operate in Britain. And now we have literally hundreds of thousands of people that we can mobilise to help us do those things, and to talk to their friends and neighbours and work colleagues as well. And that's what Momentum has become very good at. We do it for debates within the Labour Party, but we do it in public elections like this one. And we did very much better in these local elections than we did in the ones we had 2 years ago. That's what we were trying to do. We need to get better and better at mobilizing people to persuade people, because ultimately that's the way we're going to win. And, I think people will be pleased with this. Obviously, you always want to do better. However, in London, for example, to have the best result that we've had in 50-something years is clearly a remarkable result.
All right, Jon, give us a sense of what Jeremy Corbyn is thinking about these results. But before we do that, let's have a clip of him celebrating the results. Here we go.
Across the country, we've made a lot of progress in a lot of places. Obviously, we want to do as well as we possibly can everywhere, and we look at each result across the country. The story of the night is that UKIP have collapsed across the country, that we have gained in Plymouth. We've also put up our vote in a lot of other places and gained wards we've never held before in some of the London boroughs, although many are counting later on today.
All right, Jon, so that was obviously Jeremy Corbyn looks like on the campaign trail, not really knowing the results at that point. But give us a sense of what the leadership is thinking.
Yeah, well, that was a few hours ago. Quite a number of authorities hadn't started counting at that point. I think it's a very good basis for the challenges that we still have. But we do still have challenges. And in the general election last year, we also won parliamentary constituencies we'd never won before, but we did lose a few. And the few we lost were in post-industrial areas, areas where industry has disappeared because of global corporations moving production to the other side of the world because they can make more money that way. Global corporations that have really no concern for people or place or communities. They're only concerned with the bottom line, with the profits they make for the very few number of people who don't pay much in the way of tax. And so there are people in those areas are really left behind by progress, by so-called economic progress, and haven't seen any of the fruits. Although actually the entire British population has suffered somewhat, because average pay in real terms is lower than it was in Britain now than in 2010. But in these particular left behind areas, which I guess are similar to those depressed areas in which some people voted for Trump, we are having trouble winning them over, and those are the kinds of places where we lost one or two seats. I think it's going to take longer to win those people back, because I think they want to actually see, they want to see actions, not just words. But winning local authorities is one way of being able to demonstrate in action that we are on their side and we can make a difference to their lives. Although, of course, what we really need to do is to get into government to be able to demonstrate that.
All right. Now, one unique thing about Momentum, Jon, is that it has identified mobilization at local levels as one of its key priorities, working with these local councils. So this is also some sort of a vote or a poll on how well Momentum itself has been doing since its establishment. And when we listen to to coverage of UK politics from abroad, all we hear is about Brexit, and Brexit. But we know there are very significant issues on the ground, the NHS, for example, healthcare, the issue of immigration, and so forth. Give us a sense of what people in Momentum was hearing on the ground as they were organizing this time around.
Well, I think people are depressed about the state of public services. They are, you raise healthcare. I mean, people, everybody in Britain greatly values the free health service that we have at the point of use. And unfortunately, underfunding, lack of investment means that the system is really creaking, and people are having to wait very much longer for operations, and that is a real problem. They're a problem with other services too. So the social care of the elderly, which is a service that's in which local councils are involved, they are suffering from serious underfunding. But all aspects of public services are threatened by the policies of austerity that we've been facing for a number of years now. And people see Jeremy Corbyn as the person who's exposed austerity as something which is really a matter of choice, not necessity, and that there is an alternative that can give people hope of new jobs, of growth, of rising standard of living, of people being able to afford decent housing, which at the moment most people, actually right across social classes in Britain, cannot.
All right. Now, if we are on a firmer footing as far as the Labour Party is concerned as a result of these elections, you've gained some ground. What are the next steps? Where will you be setting your targets next?
Well, we've got a insight in the party. We have to develop our policies. We made a great start with the manifesto that we fought the last general election on last year, but we need to broaden and deepen our, the policies that we need to transform Britain. We can't go back whenever the election comes, which could be soon, or it could not be until 2022. We need to have, we need to develop that program some way. So that's important. We need to, over time, turn the local councils that we run into councils that believe in the kinds of transformative policies that Jeremy Corbyn believes in. We haven't yet had much impact on the complexion of the candidates that are standing for local councils. We want to do that in the future. So there are things that we need to do inside the party to improve, the outlook of our elected representatives and candidates. We also need to campaign in communities and in workplaces on issues that make a difference to people. So, I expect us to be campaigning on, our housing crisis. I've no doubt there are similar crises in the US, but in London, for example, even middle-class parents, who own a house in London, very often their children have no hope of owning similar houses in future because the cost of housing has risen so dramatically. So whether they buy or rent, very often decent housing is outside, is simply beyond what they can afford. And we haven't built any public sector housing, any social housing for decades. So most housing, all housing effectively, is unaffordable to ordinary working class people who therefore have to move a long way out of London in order to be able to find someone they can afford to live in. But then, of course, they have to pay the cost of travelling into London, which is very expensive.
Now, John, I know there's a number of initiatives that the Labour Party has undertaken under the leadership of Jeremy Corbyn. You referred to the manifesto. There's also a democracy review going on, all of which we are hoping to take up with you next time we have you on, which I hope is rather soon. So for now, I'll let you go to sleep. And we look forward to having you back very soon, John. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you. Thank you.
And thank you for joining us here on the Real News Network.